Welcome to the Property Investor Playbook. I'm Lara.
And I'm Daniel. We're going to show you step by step how you can grow your wealth.
Welcome back, guys. We have a special guest today. I'm excited to learn a bit about her property journey, her no regrets and everything.
Yes.
Lara, who are we seeing today?
Yeah, we've got Paris on.
Yep.
She actually comes from a finance background, interestingly enough. She studied accounting a few years ago. She also worked as a finance specialist.
Hey, she can help us out.
She has bought property before in Sydney, but we ask her a little bit about her next step in her journey. She's got there a little bit faster than she thought. And yes, like you said, she's definitely got no regrets. So yeah, I'm really excited to hear from her. She's doing a lot of research.
Yep.
She's learnt from all of her mistakes the first time around. She's making the most of, or she made the most of government grants. And yeah, she's ready to jump in.
All right, let's get into it.
Yeah.
Hey, Paris.
Hey Daniel, hey Laura.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you guys?
Good. Good to have you on.
Thank you,
Thanks
good to
for-
be here.
Thanks for joining us. Yeah. I think we're going to do a little fun fast five kind of game to get started. So we've got a couple of questions. You'll have 60 seconds to answer.
Okay.
Let
stress.
me get ready.
Daniel needs to get ready before me, but I'm answering the questions.
Yeah. Are we
All right.
good? Mr. Timer
Let's
is
go.
ready.
3,
Oh, God.
2, 1, shoot.
What's your name and age?
Paris, 26.
How many properties do you own?
1.
What's your biggest life achievement?
Shit.
Being on this podcast.
You know what, my HSC mark, probably till now.
What's one thing about you that you've never told anyone?
Oh my God. I don't know. I'm pretty honest. I don't have anything.
And what's your most embarrassing moment?
When I slipped when I was a bridesmaid walking into the entrance.
You didn't.
I did.
31 seconds.
Nailed it.
What?
I don't know anything I haven't ever told anyone. Hey,
What's your biggest ick?
I'm very vocal about everything. I
Nice.
don't have anything.
Tell us about the stack that you had as a bridesmaid.
Oh, so awkward. So it was my cousin's wedding and like, I don't know, like we just had a bit of a rowdy bridal party. So me being like, and I was I think 17 and I drank too much and then got a bit excited.
Where was my invite?
Got a bit carried away and then we were going in and my dress was really long and instead of picking it up, like I was dancing and then I just got, like my heel got caught on the back of my dress and I full stacked it.
Oh my God.
It was honestly, like I actually can't play the song that I walked into like after that.
PTSD?
Yeah, I have PTSD. Like I will not play the song.
How funny.
What's this HC mark?
Oh my, I'm not saying on the podcast, it's so awkward. And you know how much shit my friends at school are going to give me because I couldn't think of anything. I don't know what I'm proud of.
What about your career, your studies?
Like, I don't
after
know, mix of
HSC?
things, I guess. I'll be proud when I get my, like, 3rd or 4th property. Let's put it that way. I'm not there yet.
You'll get there.
Nice.
I'm not there yet.
We'll help.
Yeah, hopefully.
So you said you've got one property so far. Tell us a little bit about how you got into property and what made you buy property to start with.
So I've always said, like, when I was younger, and my mum always drilled it into my head, you know, you've got to try and build your property portfolio earlier. The earlier you can do it, like, obviously the better. So that was always in the back of my mind. Obviously seeing, you know, property values always going up. And coming from, like, a bit of a finance background, seeing that you can obviously, you know, get a lot of equity, draw out a lot of equity from your property. So I thought, you know, this is the best way to obviously build wealth, build income. So my first goal was just to do something small.
Yeah.
And a friend of ours was developing some properties, and one of their unit blocks was going up, and there was a lot of government grants at that stage.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like out on the whim. Honestly, I decided in like 2 days before the cutoff of the government grant, and I had the deposit sitting there anyway. I just hadn't taken the leap to put it,
To buy
yeah,
anything.
to secure anything.
Yeah.
And it just made sense that it kind of ticked all the boxes for me, and it wasn't too much of a stretch. So I just literally within 2 days, like, signed.
Would you say
Yeah.
that the knowledge around you getting all those grants and all that made the transaction a lot easier?
Definitely, like, made more sense. Like,
Yep.
it gave me that extra push, because it was just like, in my head, it was like free money. Like, kind of like no stamp duty and, you know, all those grants that were going at that time. It was like pretty much they were giving out free cash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like,
You've got to make the most of free money.
Yeah. Doesn't come around
And I
often.
think, Lara, been telling all our listeners, knowledge around those grants, getting into the market as easy as you can. Paris did that.
Yeah.
So you got into the market as easy as you could, which allows you to get your first property.
Yeah.
And now you're sitting here, maybe contemplating property number 2. Would that be fair?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Lara, we were talking about this before on the previous podcast, how all these grants, or everything that you need to know, helps you into the market. Now, working backwards from that, if you're buying your first property and getting all that information, and then you want to have a plan to buy property number 2, number 3, number 4, if I throw you a question, Paris, to buy property number 2, was that ever on the cards when you bought property number 1? Did you ever think you could get to 2 or 3 properties?
It's definitely always been something I wanted to get to. How soon I was planning on getting to it, I wasn't sure, and I didn't think I'd get, obviously God willing everything goes to plan.
Yep.
I didn't think I would be looking at that second property so soon afterwards. But I think because I just hopefully made the right choices, that it just made it easier for me.
100%. And I tell all my clients that you can buy 3 properties in 5 years, and it's a talking point around the office. So you're in that phase where you can buy 3 properties potentially in 5 years, which will hopefully set you up for the next 10 years of your life. And that will allow you to do so many things, such as open a business, go on a long holiday, work less, and that's what property can do. That's the property's the driver there. Question to you, Lara. What would you say to yourself? Well, I know we spoke about this before. All these grants and everything that you need to get into property. What would you do? Not differently, but what would you say to yourself to kind of have that plan forward? What would you plan for differently?
Me personally, I think I probably would have got into the market sooner had I known at the time about all the grants that were available. And I probably wouldn't have looked for the perfect property for me. I would have treated it more as a stepping stone, and how can I maximize the grants? How can I get the most money out of those grants to get me into my first property? Because the less money that I need to put in, the more equity I can grow.
So if I pause you there, so that's great. So you said something there that which triggered me for Paris. If your mum didn't push you, would you buy property? Good question, huh?
It was, I think, a bit of both.
Yep.
2 factors. One, me seeing, obviously, my mum pushing the importance, and then also actually seeing, I was doing, I'm kind of my mum's kind of right-hand man, so I do a lot of her finance stuff, and I know what's going on, so I know when she's drawn equity on a property, for example. So I saw that, right? And I thought, this is great. Obviously, servicing is a different thing, but, and then, working in finance for a short period as well, there's a lot of people, obviously, just chatting about it too.
Yep.
So just honestly going out on my own, listening to podcasts, and just hearing everyone's feedback, and people my age that had started a bit earlier that have already started growing their portfolio.
Moral of the story, start early. As early as you can, just get into property.
Yeah.
No matter how hard you may think it is, you can get into it. Question for you, Lara.
Again?
Yeah,
Hey.
I have a few questions for you. Property market today,
Yeah.
would you say for young individuals, 22, 21-year-olds, what's the first thing you would say you have to do?
I think just start saving is honestly the first step, because if you can't commit to saving, then serviceability on a loan is going to be very tricky for you, not only from the bank's perspective, but from your, I guess, general day-to-day finance perspective. You're not going to know what it feels like to, lose half of your pay and not be able to touch it, or more than that at the moment. A lot of people, have to put more than 50% of their weekly pay to a mortgage or to rent or to something else. So definitely start saving as soon as possible, and then that just kind of becomes a habit. And then from there, look at your options. So talk to property professionals, start looking at real estate, look at some data in areas that maybe you've heard of, or, just kind of stay up to date on what's happening in the market. That would be, first couple of things.
I agree. Paris, now property number 2 now. What are you thinking? What do you want to do now? What have you researched, more importantly?
For me, I've always had the mindset that I want the property to work for me, instead of me working for the property.
Yeah.
So my first property wasn't something I was going to live in. I rented out straight away, tried to make sure it services itself, so it's not really a big pressure on me. And then the second property is ideally going to be a bigger property, and probably not in Sydney.
Interstate.
Yeah, somewhere there's a bit of capital growth.
Yeah.
Because my first property was obviously smaller, limited in capital growth, but I was able to draw some equity on it, which was great to help me with this property. But yeah, I'm looking something interstate, something with obviously capital growth there. Something that can potentially service itself. I know I'm going to put a bit on top of it, but not, I'm not going for like a $2-3 million property in Sydney for the same land size, because it's just not serviceable. Not for me anyway at this stage. So yeah, I'm just looking at something that is just going to be able, like, the land value is going to grow itself, can service itself. Maybe I'm obviously going to put down a bit on top. And then, at least I have that there for the future for my options, depending, but definitely not something I'm going to live in at this stage.
Yeah, and we're all Sydney-siders, so for us, buying something in Sydney, a house, over $1 million,
Yeah.
You can get into something in Brisbane, for example, close to CBD, maybe 25K's out. You're paying anywhere between 7 to 800K for it. You're getting the rental that's going to hopefully cover it, or slightly negative, In Sydney, you're negative straight away. You're buying a 1.3 mil property, you're getting maybe $600 a week in rent. Brisbane, you're getting close to similar kind of rental for lesser value. So it is a smarter step going to the interstate level. What have you seen in terms of apartments, houses and townhouses? Any kind of thing you prefer?
In Brisbane?
Anyway, really. Because you got an apartment now, correct?
Yeah, ideally I want to buy something with land.
Nice.
Yeah, like a house. Just depends on the budget. And also, like, another thing to note, which is something I'm still navigating, like, especially in Brisbane, if you're looking in Brisbane 5, there's like a lot of flood zones, and then there's, you're building in pest reports, a lot of them come back, and a lot of like old houses, so you've got to like take that into consideration. And then just the uncertainty, because, when you live in a certain place, you know it. Like, if I was going to go buy in Belfield, hypothetically, like, it's down the road from me, I know that, like, what's going on in that area.
You can touch and feel it.
You know what I mean? And then,
you
but
could
like,
drive past it every day if you wanted to.
And I know what's going on. I know the type of people that are living there. I know the cafes that are there. I know, I know what transport's like and whatever. But when you're like looking at something interstate, it's a bit more of an unknown. So I think you feel like you're taking more of a risk, even though like it's supposed to be less of a risk. If that makes sense.
Do you find that hard navigating those challenges whilst looking interstate and trying to understand flood zones, fire zones, old versus new? Are you finding it hard to navigate yourself?
Yeah, like, I'm not gonna lie, I've considered talking to someone like yourselves to help me.
Maybe you're in that place then.
But I'm just also taking it as a learning opportunity too. Yeah. So yeah.
What type of research are you doing at the moment to help you with this next stage of your property journey?
This is going to sound so dumb, but don't put this in the podcast.
It's going in.
Yeah. Like, honestly, I've been looking at all the reports, like the Olympics, where they're putting the infrastructure up. There's a website that I used, pretty much shows me what has been sold recently, how much percentage of the people are on the rental market.
What website is it?
I can't remember the name. I've got it in my favourites. But it gives you like a percentage of how much of the street or the market in that area is like on rental, and how long it's been owned for, average hold time. It gives you pretty much a good indication, statistic of what kind of what kind of area it is. I think you need to do that if you're going to be like buying interstate, because I know what like North Strathfield's like, and I know what, but I don't know.
Good research.
Yeah, definitely.
That is like, this girl's taking my job.
Have you been looking at that kind of research for long, or only since you made the decision to invest again?
Only while I've been looking, because I'm hopping from areas. Like, I'm a bit of like, 1 week I'm really busy at work, so I'm not looking, and then the next week I'm deep diving, and then I'll go to put in an offer and the bloody property is snatched up again. I'm like, how annoying.
And I think a lot of our listeners have the same kind of thing that Paris is saying. They'll look, they'll stop, they'll start again, they'll stop, and then before you know it, 6 months goes by, they're like, oh my god, I should have bought the property.
And then the
before.
market's changed.
That's literally me. Like, I'm hitting myself because I'm looking at like areas that I was looking at, and it's gone up, and I'm like, I could have made 200 grand in 6 months, like,
exactly.
because I was like too busy. But anyway.
Well, you
Don't put that in the
you and
podcast
other-
either, guys.
You and others like you would really benefit then from speaking to professionals in general, but obviously Liberty.
I'm here.
Hi.
Daniel's here. Give him a call.
Daniel, when did you get your first property? How did you buy your first property?
How did I
'Cause
buy
you've
it?
already got, you got all the questions. Good one.
Okay, so as a lot of everyone knows, I came from a poor family, yeah. So I wanted to buy property as soon as I could. So when I got my first job at the bank, I saved as much as I can. I was 20 years old, I believe it was. I went to this auction in Liverpool. I was actually the finance person for it. My customer got cold feet. I'm like, it was a rainy day. We went inside the house to do the auction, and no one was bidding. I'm like, man, 620, no one's buying this house. I'm like, I'll put my hand up. I'll give it a shot. I was terrified, yeah. So I was 20 years old there. I came back home. My parents kind of goes, "You bought a house without telling us?" I'm like, it's a good opportunity. I did all my research for my customer,
Yeah.
and I think it was there. So I put what I learned into practice, and it was 3 months later, I settled the property. Fast forward to this day, 20 years ago, so what, 9 years later, that property is now worth almost double
Yeah, wow.
for my first one. So that allowed me to kind of do a lot. But if I didn't do that risk, or I didn't put myself in that risky situation,
Yeah.
I would have never
Yeah.
had that opportunity.
Sometimes it's just about taking that
Yeah.
that first step and that leap, like you said. You kind of made that decision within 2 days. You had the deposit ready, and then 2 days later, you were like, "Done. I'm
Yeah.
buying." So
But you have to put yourself in those unfamiliar
Uncomfortable,
territory.
yeah.
Yeah.
And when you talk to these guys, like the finance person, even people like myself, you may feel a bit scared, or I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. But if you have these conversations, you start learning.
yeah,
It can be fun.
yeah.
It can be fun. I'll make it fun.
It can be fun, yeah. My story was a little bit different. I was looking for so long. Mine is not a, split-second decision or a 2-day decision. My partner and I were saving throughout COVID, and we were actually ready to buy before COVID, and then when COVID hit, it changed everything. So then we kind of just dragged it out, and then as time went on, our needs changed because we knew that we were going to live in the property. So we started looking from apartments to townhouses and villas, and we ended up with a duplex because we knew we were getting closer to the stage of having a family. We needed more space.
Yeah.
But you mentioned earlier with your apartment that you never wanted to live in it. Did you live in it at all? Just for a little bit of time, like 6 months
Yeah,
or something?
for the initial phase.
Yeah, and then rented it out?
Yeah.
And are you renting somewhere else now?
Yeah. Yeah, at the moment I'm renting. I'm just by myself, so it's
Yeah.
not too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're rent vesting?
Yeah, pretty much at the moment.
It's the only
It's not my
way to do it.
favourite thing to do, but yeah, I'm doing it.
Living by yourself?
No, renting.
Look, they say renting's a bad thing. Like everyone tells me this, yeah. So if you were to, where do you want to live? Like, give me an area. What's your ideal area in the world? Well, keep it in Sydney, maybe.
I was going to say probably not in Australia.
I just live. I like where I live now. I live in Stratford. It's easy. It's
Nice.
12 minutes to the city.
All right.
Yeah.
Are you in a house?
Now I'm in an apartment.
Okay. How much would that apartment cost if you were to buy it?
I reckon $750.
Yeah, perfect. And if you were to buy that property and
Rent it out.
$750 and you put your deposit onto it, maybe $100K down payment, all that kind of stuff, you're still probably paying close to maybe $900 to $1,000 a week in mortgage repayments, plus everything else, plus the Strata and everything else that comes with it.
Yeah.
If you were to rent it, you probably save yourself $300-400 a week minimum, plus your down payment's still with you. You still have your savings. So everyone keeps saying that renting's a bad thing, but if you're living in an area that you want to live in, nothing's bad about it. Like, I can't wait to live in an area like Strathfield. If I was to buy a house in Strathfield, that's a lot of money, yeah? But renting, I can afford that. I know I can afford that. So they're the things that people don't know more about. But if they can educate themselves around that and getting that stigma away from renting is a bad thing, it's not bad. Keep buying, use your money to buy properties interstate, get 3-4 of them. Before you know, even if you want to in 20 years' time, sell all of them. I'm sure you got some money from them, or draw the equity, buy your dream property.
Yeah.
That's my plan.
Have either of you ever been nervous? Because I've never rented. I went straight from living at home with my parents to moving into the house that I bought. Have either of you ever, I guess, been nervous about renting in the fact that you could be, I don't want to say kicked out, but you could be, told that your lease is ending and you need to find somewhere else by a certain date? Like, how does that make you feel?
You go first.
Well, I only just started renting, so
Yeah.
I'm new to it, and I definitely don't like it. Just because I feel like there's a bit of like lack of freedom.
Yeah.
One, And there also is that, like, just that sense of, like, uncertainty that you're going to have to leave at some point. But, like, also in saying that, it's always good because if you get sick of the place, you just pick yourself up and leave.
Yeah.
You can't do that at your house.
Yeah.
So
Trial and error of
yeah, like,
different
you could just
areas.
move a different area, like,
Yeah.
you know. So that's always good. So I guess it's just, like,
Yeah, finding the balance.
yeah.
I have the opposite. Like, I like renting because I know that I'm not stuck down to living in that one property. So if I want to say I want to go move near the beach, I can go do that.
Yeah.
If I want to say I want to go move closer to the rural area, I can go do that.
Yeah.
If I have my own house, I know I'm paying for that. It's a big mortgage, I'm living in it.
Yeah.
So for me, as we're all young here, I don't want to be stuck in that house forever. That's what our parents do. That's what everyone else is trained to do.
Yeah.
If we do something a little bit different, who knows? It may pay off.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. If you've strategized a little, it will. If you've bought in the right areas, and then, you know, the renting side will all make it come together.
But think about it. If you've got 3 properties and you're putting down like maybe 60k down payment each one of them,
Yeah.
they're all growing in value. They're all
Yeah.
growing in 10, 12%. And the Olympics, this is the biggest one. The Olympics is coming to Brisbane, yeah? So all these international investors are going to come to Brisbane. You're going to see how nice it is. City, water, amazing, yeah? So what they're going to do, they're going to be like, wow, I'm not letting this opportunity go. I want to buy this.
Yeah.
And before you know it, like in 5 to 10 years' time, there'll be less properties on the east coast of Australia where we can't be close to water anymore.
Yeah.
So everyone's building infill. So they're going more and more inland. So before you know it, we're moving an hour away from any kind of water. And like, we live in a beautiful country. We're an island, yeah, at the end of the day. So if we can buy properties, even interstate, that we can't see them, but we know it's there, at least we can slowly get that capital growth in the areas where the water is. And if you look at the function of Sydney, people didn't want, like, I asked my parents, they didn't like places like Maroubra, they didn't like the beachy suburbs, they thought it was yuck. Bondi, look at it now,
This
yeah?
is Arabs. So no Arabs bought near the water,
Yeah.
right? So like all of us, we all live like west.
Yeah.
If they wanted, they should have bought by the water because they will be laughing now. It's okay.
But you're exactly right. You're exactly right. So the same thing happened to Brisbane. Like, these guys want their big land, like in infill, but if we can go close to the water, at the end of the day, it's so nice being 10 minutes from the water, or your backyard is the water.
Yeah.
Why not? If you can buy it now and you can afford it, do it.
Yeah.
There's no long-term risk.
Yeah.
You're buying close to the water.
Yeah, unless it floods, then you're stuffed. Other than that, you're good.
See the good, see the positive.
She's quick to pick the
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I'm giving it a bit of analysis, right?
I don't know how you've bought property. Everything you find
No.
is negative.
Like, there's definitely pros. You can get a property in Brisbane, like next to the water, for like $1 million. You can't do that here.
Yeah, definitely not. Or you'd be in a little shoebox.
Yeah, literally, like a bedroom studio or something.
Definitely, yeah. I want to ask, I'm just curious, I've also been through first home buyer, you know, all of the good and bad that goes with it. But what's, I guess, like your top 3 kind of, I don't know, learning points from buying your first property, and what would you do different next time?
Top 3. Because I didn't have much time to think about it, I think you definitely do a bit more, like, research would be good. In the sense that, like, first thing, if it's an investment property, always check what you're going to get as rental. Like,
Yeah.
make sure that you know what your servicing is going to really look like and how much your rental is going to be.
Yeah.
It's also good, like, sometimes there's not a big difference between like a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom apartment in relation to how much rent you're going to get, but there's a big difference in the price of the actual, like, property, which I found was strange, but I never did that research before.
Yeah.
And then, like, the last thing is just try and maximise every dollar you can get from the government for your first property. Like, I always knew that, like, I wanted to get, like, you know, the first home owners grant and the stamp duty and everything. I wanted to make sure that at least I can cover those bases.
Yeah.
Sometimes people, you know, like, they're in different positions or stages in their life, like where they're getting married, for example, and the both of them need to want to buy a property together.
Yeah.
So it just depends, I guess, obviously what stage you're in. But yeah, make sure, like, at least if you're purchasing by yourself, see if you can maximise how much all the grants.
Yeah.
See what your rental return is going to be, and then also do that research just to make sure, like, what you're paying is good value.
You want a job here?
Yeah, why not?
I mean, you've got the finance background. Jump right in.
This is actually my job interview. That's why I said yes.
Say goodbye find your day job.
Bye.
Yeah, so do a bit more research on the value of the property and kind of forward thinking and
Yeah.
look at what growth opportunities it has, to look at your rental returns and what you could get for the property, and maximize your first home buyer grants, right?
Yes, and Strata. Oh, you make sure you check how much your Strata's going to be.
Yeah, was
It's good
Strata
too.
a shock to you?
Not really. Like, I didn't really account for it when I first but I'm pretty, like, I think, I don't know, the apartment, I better not actually rewind. It's make sure if you're going to get investment property that you've got a good strata company on that property if you're buying a unit, because that is a big thing with rent. I think anyway, like for me, the next property I'm going to go for, like go rent if I'm going to rent somewhere, you want to make sure that the strata is taking care of the building, because I think that adds a lot of value to what you can get for rent. Personally, that's in my opinion. I don't know if that's a fact, but I think from my perspective, it should be.
Yeah.
That's what I look at anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. When I was looking at like apartments and townhouses, there's so many different opinions out there on, you know, what strata company should be managing, and you should only go with this strata like make sure that the building only has this strata company. And then I had other friends that were saying make sure that it's a self-managed strata, you know, managed by residents.
What do you think, Daniel, strata-wise?
Strata's a good thing. That's why if you are to buy an apartment or townhouse, you want to go as close to new as possible.
Yeah.
It's safer, there's warranties, it's an easier, it's level strata. So my kind of strategy for anything apartments, townhouse or strata levies, try and be as close to new as possible.
Yeah.
Safest risk out there.
Yeah, and then there's other benefits that come with buying new as well.
100%.
But yeah, definitely strata is a big one. Agree.
Yeah.
Do you have any regrets in your property journey so far?
No.
No regrets?
No, not
I
yet.
like it.
Yeah, that's good.
Not yet, no.
Not yet, you won't.
I don't think so. I think, honestly, like buying property is I know people don't want to hear this, but it's a gamble at the end of the day. Like it's like buying stocks. Do you know what I mean? Like you don't know you're not assured the value's going to, it's obviously a stronger asset, and it's something that you can, is backed, and it's, you know, it's not like a company, but like, I think you got to take it a bit more lightheartedly. I know it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I know people, you know, everyone works really hard for their money, but you can't like, I don't think you should like depend your whole life onto it. That's all.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not,
See, I think that property is the safest asset class in the world.
I agree on that. Yeah, I agree on that.
If I was to put money anywhere, I'm putting it straight into property.
Yeah.
If I can buy as many as I can in 3 and 5 years, I'm doing that straight
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's definitely the safest.
It is the safest, yeah. I mean, all of them, like you said, all of them are a gamble. Anytime you're investing, buying stocks, buying crypto, whatever it is that people are buying at the moment, it's all a gamble. But property is definitely the safest.
Definitely the safest.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for coming on, Paris. It was really good
Thanks,
to chat
guys.
with you. Thanks for sharing a little bit about your journey, some insights, and, you know, your not regrets. You have no regrets. That's
No
amazing to hear.
We're still early in the journey, so we'll see.
Hopefully we'll have you back on when you're at, 3 and 5 years.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll be part of Liberty Property Group.
Let's do it!
Newest team member.